And just moments ago, the FBI and local officials completed a court-ordered search of a home in Rio Rico, Arizona. We'll have a live report on that in just a few moments.
This all developing after the FBI released this video of an armed man approaching Guthrie's home the night she was taken. So many developments literally in just the last hour. We're going to bring you the very latest for the next 2 hours. You're watching Fox and Friends First here on a Wednesday morning. I'm Todd Pyler.
Everyone's talking about the major Fox News alert, but here's what they're getting wrong. Police questioning someone doesn't mean the case is solved. I'm going to break this down so clearly, you'll understand it better than most politicians. And by the end, you'll know exactly how this affects your safety, your privacy, and what they have a lead actually means when you hear it on TV. Because buried in the details is something shocking no one's explaining: how investigators can search a home, take a phone, and still let the person walk free. We begin this morning with major Fox News alert. Police releasing a man overnight after questioning in the abduction of Nancy Guthrie. FBI and local officials completed a search of a home in Arizona. This happening after FBI released this video of armed man at Guthrie's home the night she was taken. So many developments in the last hour. No major announcement from authorities. So let me break this down in plain English. Here's the simple version. Investigators were active. They searched a house, they questioned a man, and then they released him. The reporter on the ground described it. This area had investigators, police tape up, red and blue lights. There was a search happening at the house around the corner. Earlier today, Pima County Sheriff announced. Then the reporting shifts to what happened next. They go up to the house being searched, and the man identified himself as Carlos. He tells them he was the person detained for questioning in relation to the Nancy Guthrie case, and he is a free man. He said he had nothing to do with it. They asked about his whereabouts, took his phone, and set him free. Now pause right there, because this is where most people mentally jump to, they got the guy. But the reporting is explicit. The search is over. They did not announce an arrest or identify anyone as a suspect. It is not clear what they got out of the search. The man at the center of it is free, and no major announcement from authorities. And then you get that feeling the anchors describe, like the energy doesn't match the headline. Todd asks about that. The scene looked low-key compared to other scenes. Matt says the search seemed pretty calm and measured, and investigators couldn't make out exactly what was going on. It is so dark. He's seen more frantic or active scenes. It seemed like they were recovering information, and then they left. Then comes the roller coaster moment that makes this feel like a break. Matt explains that the previous day felt like a lull, no suspects, no persons of interest, and then Savannah Guthrie posted that video pleading for help. They thought things were quiet, and then stills were released. He calls it a horrifying moment, the person in the mask at Nancy's house, and a person being questioned. It seemed like maybe this was a big break related to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. They rushed to this area in Rio Rico near Arizona, and then the guy said, "I'm free," and had nothing to do with this. Carly tries to pin down the timeline clearly. Carlos, who was detained, questioned, and released back into the house that had been searched, was he the person detained by Pima County Police earlier in the day during the traffic stop? Matt says yes. He identified himself as the person taken in for questioning during the traffic stop. He said for a short time he was in the vehicle being questioned, and they were asking about his whereabouts. And then the details get specific, and this is where you can see how investigators might connect dots. Matt says investigators flashed a picture of a person in a mask and they mentioned the eyes. He says if he connects the dots, maybe they were implying Carlos matched the description of the suspect. His eyes may have matched the eyes seen under the mask, and stature maybe appeared the same. Matt says he does perhaps look like the suspect in the video. Then you get a detail that sounds small, but in investigations, small details can matter. Matt says Carlos told them he delivers packages in Tucson. That is what he does for a living. Matt asks him, "Have you ever been to Nancy Guthrie's house? Are you familiar with the property?" He said he doesn't know. And then Matt points to something people online immediately latch onto. In the original video, there is what appears to be an Amazon package on Nancy's front porch. People are asking about that Amazon package. Perhaps someone had been there delivering a package. Perhaps investigators began to look at delivery patterns at some point recently, and maybe Carlos was one of them, and that was how they got tipped off. Matt adds, aside from extracting information in Carlos's phone, no major development right now. Todd asks the practical question everyone's thinking. Typically, you expect to see authorities lugging out big boxes of stuff. Did you see any of that? Matt says he did see 2 law enforcement officers who identified themselves as Pima County walking out with something, but he couldn't tell if it was a large briefcase or box. He asked Carlos if they took anything from the house, and Carlos said they have his phone. Carlos insists, I did not have anything to do with this. Then comes another thread mentioned on air. The mother-in-law said they were not familiar with the Nancy Guthrie case. Matt says they were thinking there is a Bitcoin wallet referenced. Perhaps if this person was not physically tied to the disappearance of Nancy, maybe he was tied to the Bitcoin wallet. But the bottom line in the reporting stays the same. They have his phone. For now, he is a free man, and he said he has nothing to do with the Nancy Guthrie disappearance and he wants to clear his name. Carly sums up the moment. It was certainly a jarring evening for him, and they await more information from officials. Then they bring in former NYPD detective Tom Smith, and this is where the explanation becomes the key to understanding why searched doesn't automatically mean arrest. He reacts. This happens in these cases. There is a specific reason they stop this individual, and to get a search warrant is not easy. You have to show reason for it and specifics of what you want to search for and where you want to search. He emphasizes, this was not just, let's stop this car because of what might have come in. He offers possibilities. It might have been as simple as a lead, a cell tower hit because he does deliveries in the area. They might have put 2 and 2 together with someone saying, I know who this is. It could be as simple as that. And then he describes the reality of investigations. This is how leads come in and investigations roll sometime. He also addresses the emotional impact. Right now, it is disheartening to the family. They were probably excited last night with news of this, and the letdown of it not being him can be traumatic. Todd then clarifies something important about language. The individual Matt reported on was never officially named a suspect by law enforcement, and Todd asks the strategy question, would you ever release someone after questioning if there was any chance they could become a suspect later? Tom answers, no, then qualifies. That depends on questioning and interrogation and the interview. If you are laying everything out, and these are probably seasoned people, detectives and agents and investigators, so it depends on that interview. If it is a dead end, it is a dead end. It depends what was said and the information they have. He repeats the core limitation. We are not privy as to how this took place. We don't know the questions that went on during that. He could have been an outlying figure. Somebody may have said he was in the area and may know something else. They are not sure of the exact reason he was stopped, and that would prompt the questions. Carly brings up the other big development, images and footage released of a masked person at the front door of Nancy Guthrie's home. She asks for his assessment of what he saw. Tom says there is a lot with that video, identifying features people will key on, the backpack, his clothes, his walk, the gloves. There's a lot to go on. He explains why releasing video matters. When this video came out, there were thousands of leads that came in. That is what you want. You want the public's help. Police can't be everywhere. The public can be. You want this video out there and as many eyes on it as you can. That is how this is going to move forward. Todd goes back to the home search and asks what authorities were looking for, obvious and non-obvious. Tom answers, you are looking for the clothing he was wearing, his phone, computers, anything like that. And then he returns to the legal point again. When you are dealing with a search warrants are very specific. You can't give me a search warrant for this individual's house. You need to lay out what you are looking for. And again, they are not privy as to why he was stopped, which goes back to what was in the search warrant and what they are looking for. He lists what could link things together: paperwork, documents, photos, cell phones, computers. Carly mentions law enforcement was back in Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood, searching the area and questioning neighbors, and asks why. Tom answers, probably for leads. You go back to the last place she was seen. You start there. You interview neighbors. Any suspicious cars that night? Did you hear anything? Anybody walking around your property? He adds a credibility note from his experience. He worked with the FBI for 17 years, and the FBI does not do anything just to do it. It is for a reason. Going back to the neighborhood means there is a specific reason they were there knocking on doors and asking about that night in this investigation. Todd brings up another line. Kash Patel said on air they were looking at sons of interest, and asks whether that was just a figure of speech or whether he meant more than one person of interest is being looked at right now. Tom says he thinks it was deliberate because of the nature of it. It is difficult for one person to kidnap an individual, whether they were 84 years old or 20 years old. It is hard to do that. He says he is making the assumption more than one person involved in this. And until we do know more, the segment ends with the same unresolved reality. They continue to follow the ebb and flow of this case as Nancy Guthrie still remains missing.